Good afternoon, students. Myself, Dr. Umia Pathan. I am here to teach you the subject of fundamentals of kinesiology and kinesiotherapy. Okay. Previous week we had discussed about what are the axes and planes and what are the types of movement. I'll just revise within 2 minutes. So there are 4 types of movements: active movement, passive movement, active assisted and resisted. And in that also we had seen what are the types of muscle contractions: isotonic contraction, isometric contraction, concentric type of muscle contraction and eccentric type of muscle contraction. Okay, so out of these 4 types of movement, first we will see what is passive movement. Okay. So at the end of this topic you should learn about what is the passive movement, okay, and what are the classifications of passive movement. Then you should come to know about what are the principles of passive movement, okay, and after that what are the effects and uses of this passive movements. So passive movements, these kind of movements are produced by external force during muscular inactivity or when muscular activity is voluntarily reduced to permit the movement. What is mean by this definition? Have you seen any patient who is bedridden and who is diagnosed as paralysis? Okay, that time that patient is unable to lift his limb. Suppose that patient is unable to move his shoulder above, okay, because there is no muscular activity. Okay, so what we therapists are doing, we are just giving support to that part and we are moving that part, okay, so that these movements are produced with the help of physiotherapist by applying some external force during when patient is unable to perform the movement voluntarily. Okay, understood this definition? Okay, now this is the classification of passive movement. First is relaxed passive movement, okay, which includes accessory movements. Second one is passive manual mobilization technique. In that there are 3 sub-points or 3 subtypes. First is mobilization of joint, second is manipulation of joint, third one is controlled sustained stretching of tightened structures. We will see one by one. So first is relaxed passive movements. So when you are performing passive movement to the patient, that time the therapist should know actual anatomy of that particular part. Suppose, for example, if you are performing shoulder flexion, that time you should know what is the anatomy of shoulder, okay, how head is attached to acetabulum, okay, what are the muscles responsible for that particular motion. So all this you should know. First you should know the anatomy of joint. After that you have to perform this relaxed passive movement accurately and smoothly. You should not perform this movement very fast or very slow. It should be performed accurately and smoothly by the therapist. Then these relaxed passive movements are as good as active movements only, but difference is here some external force. Patient needs some external force to perform the movement. As he is not having any kind of voluntary control, patient needs some external force. So that these are the same like active movement, but difference is it needs assistance by the therapist. Okay. Then when you are performing the passive movement, that time you have to move the limb within pain-free limit. Okay. Suppose if you are performing shoulder flexion and patient says that, Madam, I am having pain at this level, at some around 120 degrees. Then that time you have to stop that movement. Okay. And then for next movement you have to do it from 0 to 120 only. So you have to move the part within pain-free limit. And you have to move the part throughout the available range of motion. If patient is unable to perform more than 120 degree, that time you should not exceed above that range. Okay, otherwise it will create again pain. So understood? When you are performing passive movement to the patients, that time you should know what is the anatomy of that particular part. Okay, then you have to perform this passive movement smoothly as well as accurately, and that joint should be moved without pain-free limit. Okay, and you have to move within the available range of motion. Okay, now we will see what are the principles of giving relaxed passive movement. First one is relaxation. Okay, see, suppose if you are going to any doctor, okay, and that time he directly touches you, how you feel? You feel little bit disturbing, no? So when you are going to the patient, when you are going towards the patient, that time you have to give your identity to that patient. Okay, after that you have to ask his permission, and then you have to touch. Okay, and after that you have to give brief explanation what procedure or which procedure you are going to perform on him. Okay, because patient should know. So you have to give brief explanation what procedure or what treatment you are going to give on him. Then you have to select some suitable starting position. Okay, suppose if you are performing for shoulder flexion, that time you have to take the patient in supine position. Okay, and when you are performing shoulder extension, that time you have to take that patient in prone position. Okay, this position, all these positions I will let you know during practical hours. After that, you have to gain the patient's confidence. Okay, if patient is confident while performing the movement, then only you will get the results. Okay, so you have to gain his confidence. So first principle is relaxation. Second principle is fixation. Okay, when you are giving relaxed passive movement, you have to fix the proximal bone. Okay, suppose if you are giving relaxed passive movement to elbow, okay, so which is the proximal bone? Humerus. So this humerus you have to fix with your left hand. If it is not fixed, then your range of motion is reduced. Okay, and you will not get the good results. So you have to fix the proximal bone. See in this picture, that therapist is performing shoulder abduction. Okay, so when for shoulder abduction, proximal bone you can say it is scapula. Okay, so here only for shoulder and as well as hip, no need to fix the bone, because as patient is lying down on the bed, that scapula and pelvis is already fixed. So except for shoulder and hip, you have to stabilize. You have to give fixation to the all the joints. Okay. Then see for shoulder abduction, that scapula is already fixed. Okay. So if you are not fixed the proximal bone, then it will lead to compensatory movements. Okay, and you will not get the good results. So third principle is support. Okay, this support is given to distal part. Okay, first proximal part you have to fix it, and you have to give support to the distal part. Okay, when you are supporting the distal part, that time your grasp should be firm and comfortable. Okay, you have to stand in stance phase when you are performing the passive movement. So you have to see your comfort also. Okay, otherwise you will face back pain. So when for the support you have to give it to the distal part, and it should be comfortable for the patient, and you have to grasp very firmly and comfortably. Third one is traction. Now what is mean by traction? When see like this, your joint is there, and when you move both the joint surfaces apart, that is called as a traction. Okay, so these articular surfaces are drawn apart with the help of traction. Okay, when you provide fixation to the proximal bone, okay, that time it is easy to move distal bone. Okay, suppose for elbow you are fixing the humerus. Okay, that time it is easier to give traction. So this traction, it will facilitate this traction when these joint surfaces are drawn apart. That time what happen? The friction between joint is prevented. Okay, so this intra-articular friction is prevented with the help of this traction. So when you are giving relaxed passive movement, you have to give this traction. It is very important. Fifth one is range. Okay, so you have to give range range of motion in full and without pain. Okay, without eliciting pain. So if full movement is possible with that patient, that time you have to give full range. Otherwise, if range is limited and patient feels pain, that time you have to give within pain-free limit. Okay, so this full range of motion is important to maintain the surrounding extensibility of these muscles. Okay, and when you are giving range of motion for the two joint muscle, for example quadriceps or hamstring group of muscle, that time you have to give the range progressively, because these two joints muscle, they are tightened over both the joints. Okay, so you have to give it progressively, slowly but progressively. Okay, don't give forcefully, because it will lead to damage to the muscle fibers. So sixth principle is speed and duration. Okay, when you are giving the relaxed passive movement, you have to maintain the relaxation, okay, throughout the movement. Don't give very fast or very slow this movement. Okay, speed should be uniform and slow, and it should be given in rhythmical manner. Understood? What are the six principles? First one is relaxation, then fixation, then support, then traction, then range of motion, and last one is speed and duration. Okay. Now we will see what are the effects and uses of this passive movement. Okay. This will break the adhesion formation. Okay. When you are giving passive movement, that time what happen? You are already, that patient is bedridden. Okay. Limb is not moved for a week or for some time. That time when you are that time between the joints. Okay. So as soon as when you are moving the joint up and down, that time it will help to break this adhesion, okay, which are present in the joints. To break the adhesion, one movement is, you can give one movement, or one movement is fine to break this adhesion. But usually in our hospital, in our wards, we are giving movements, passive movements for 15 times for one joint. Okay. This first effect is it will break the adhesions. Second effect is when patient is unable to perform the active movement, okay, due to some muscular inactivity, or patient is not having voluntary control, okay, that time what happens, it will preserve the memory of pattern by stimulating kinesthetic receptors. Okay, when you are moving the limb up and down, that time what happens, the receptors which are present in the patient's joint, that will stimulate, okay, that will send impulses to brain. Okay, so brain can understood. Now Baba, this is flexion. Okay, now that patient have to perform the flexion. So brain immediately send the signals, okay, which are already forgotten. So like this way, it will preserve the pattern of memory pattern, okay, by stimulating the kinesthetic receptors. Okay. When full range active movement is impossible, that time it will maintain the extensibility of muscle, okay, as well as the shortening of the muscle is prevented. Okay, usually what happens, patient is bedridden for longer duration. That time due to inactivity or due to no movement, patient may develop shortening of that particular muscle. Okay, so when you are giving full range this passive movement, it will produce or it will reduce the adaptive shortening of that particular group of muscle. Okay. Also, when you are moving up and down, that time what happens? This these veins, they are contracted and again relaxed. Okay. So that venous and lymphatic return to that particular part is increased. Okay. With the help of this mechanical pressure, as you are moving limb up and down, it will create pressure, intramuscular pressure. Okay, that will lead to contraction and relaxation of that veins and lymphatics. Okay, and because of that, blood supply to that particular part is increased. Then rhythm of passive movement. It will have soothing effect, okay, and it will produce again relaxation of that part or relaxation of the patient, and patient may get sleep also, patient may develop sleep also. Okay, so if your patient is sleeping when you are giving passive movement, that time you can say your movements are good. Okay. Okay, so first type is relaxed passive movement. Okay, that is over. Now in that, accessory movements. So what are these accessory movements? So when you are moving the joint, okay, that time what happens? Some articular motions are also occurring. Okay, when you are moving, when you are doing flexion, that time rolling and gliding of your head of humerus is occur. Okay, so these are the accessory movements which are occur along with your normal movements. Okay. So principles of these accessory movements are again relaxation. Okay. So here also you have to explain the patient you have to give brief explanation to the patient. Okay, you have to gain the patient's confidence. Okay, then again you have to fix the proximal part, same like relaxed passive movements. Okay, so you have to fix the proximal part. If you are not fixing the proximal part, then what happen? Your range of motion is reduced and there may be some compensatory movement occurs. Okay, so to avoid that, you have to first fix the proximal part. Okay, then you have to give support to the distal part. Okay. So effects of these accessory movements are, it will increase range of motion like relaxed passive movement only. Okay, and then it will maintain your mobility of joint. Okay. Now passive manual mobilization technique. Okay, in this there are three techniques. First is mobilization of joint, second one is manipulation of joint, and third one is sustained stretching. Okay, so first is mobilization of joint. What is meant by mobilization? So when you are giving small repetitive rhythmical and oscillatory movements with the small or high amplitude within the available range under the patient's control, that is called as a mobilization of joint. Okay. For example, Maitland joint mobilization, Mulligan joint mobilization, or Carlton bone mobilization. Okay, in that what happen? Patient is suppose if patient is having frozen shoulder. Okay, in that patient you have to give this mobilization of joint. Okay, so you have to give some small rhythmic and oscillatory movement to that particular joint. Okay, that is called as a glides. Okay, so you have to perform anterior, posterior, upward, downward glides. Manipulation of joint. Now this manipulation of joint, they are given with the help of therapist as well as with the help of surgeons. Okay. So when therapist is giving, that time these are accurately localized single quick movements of small amplitude and high velocity, which are completed just before patient can stop it. Okay, for example, these manipulations usually we are giving over the chest. Okay, so during chest physiotherapy, okay, we are giving percussions. Okay, so these are the quick movements. So we are giving that percussions like this. Okay, so these are the quick type of movement. Okay, with this small amplitude, but it is having high velocity. Okay, so when you are giving rate of giving percussion is around more than 100 per minute. Okay, so you are giving repetitively. Okay, with small amplitude, but speed or velocity is high. So usually these kind of manipulations are performed over the chest. Just I am giving you one example. So these manipulations given by surgeon, usually these are given under general anesthesia or local anesthesia to reduce the pain, okay, and spasm, and with the help of that adhesions can be broken down. For example, shoulder, frozen shoulder. Okay, in frozen shoulder cases, orthopedicians are given they have given general anesthesia to that area. Okay, and they are moving the hand. Okay, so they are giving manipulations. Now principles. After that comes third is sustained stretching. Okay, usually stretching is given to the muscles which are shortened. Okay, so to give stretching, first principle is patient should be relaxed, okay, and comfortably supported. There are different types of stretching. okay, that you will come to know in next year. So these type of stretching, they are given in different positions. So when you are giving the stretching, again you have to give fixation, okay, fixation to the suitable part. It is not like that here you have to give only proximal part, okay, you can give it to fixation to distal part also, okay. It is different for each muscle. Then you have to grasp the part, okay, and you have to give a sustained stretch. Suppose if you want to increase the range of motion for flexors, okay, then you have to stretch it beyond the available range. That is called as a sustained controlled stretching. Okay. So the effects of this sustained controlled stretching are, when you are giving steady and sustained stretch, it will reduce the spasticity. This kind of stretch you can give in pediatric patients, okay, patients who are suffering from cerebral palsy. In that you can give steady and sustained stretch, okay. After that, slow stretch, okay, it will produce the relaxation as well as the lengthening of the muscle, okay. So this slow stretch you can give post-operated patients. Then steady and prolonged stretch, okay, it will produce, it will increase the length of ligaments, fascia and muscles, okay, when you are giving prolonged stretch. So usually this kind of stretch you can give where the muscles are shortened, okay. For example, hamstring, some people are having tightness in hamstring, that time you can give this steady and prolonged stretch. Okay. Now I'll see you one video. Just look at this video.
Stop. Disconnect झालं.
Okay. Just
of the hip joint.
Just see.
During active testing, it is wise to do passive range of motion. The goal of passive range of motion is to get information on the so-called end field. There are several kinds of end fields. Take a look at this table to learn about the characteristics. This is good. For
Just
flexion,
see.
bring the hip into around about 60 degrees of flexion, support the lower leg, and give resistance into extension. Okay. To assess the extension, bring the leg into around about 30 degrees of flexion and give resistance into flexion direction.
Okay. So here what happened? So here what happened? He is performing passive movement for hip flexion. Okay. So he is already that hip joint is fixed. Okay. So he is providing support over the thigh as well as over the lower leg. Okay.
To conduct resistant isometric testing for adduction, pick up the leg, put one hand distal to the knee and one hand proximal to the knee, and ask your patient to bring the legs together while you give resistance. Okay. To conduct resistance.
See, for adduction, he has given support over the knee as well as at the ankle joint. Okay. he has hold that patient's limb like this, okay, and then he tell him to and he is performing adduction, okay. So here he has given support over the knee as well as ankle, but already that pelvis is fixed, so he has not given fixation to pelvis because as patient is lying, that part is already fixed.
So the isometric testing in the direction of abduction. Pick up the leg, put one hand distal to the knee, one hand proximal to the knee, and ask the patient to move the leg outwards. Okay. To conduct resistant isometric testing,
okay. So for performing abduction also, he has hold his knee as well as ankle, okay. Understood? I'll just revise what we have seen. First, we have seen the types of passive movement, okay. So at the end of this session, you have seen what is the definition of passive movement, okay. Then we have seen what are the types of passive movement. First is relaxed passive movement with accessory movements, okay. Second type is passive manual mobilization technique. In that also 3 techniques are there. First is mobilization of joint, second one is manipulation of joint, and third is sustained stretching. Then we have seen what are the principles of passive movement, okay. In that first one is relaxation, second one is fixation, third one is third one is a support, fourth is a traction, fifth is range of motion, and sixth is speed and duration, okay. After that we have seen what are the effects and uses of passive movements, and after that we have seen what are the passive manual mobilization technique, okay. So like this way I conclude this lecture gets over, okay. Next time when you are coming, that time you have to read all this movement from the book of Dina Gardiner, okay. Thank you.